I used to believe betrayal announced itself with thunder, something undeniable and loud enough to shake the walls. But the truth is, it crept in quietly on a Tuesday, so ordinary, it could have been photocopied, and lived twice without notice. I had just gotten home from work tired, but settled heating up leftover pasta that had fused into one sticky brick. The microwave hummed while I tried to break the block of noodles apart with my fork. Ma, my husband, pushed the front door open. He looked exhausted, the way only an actor can look after rehearsal eyes, rimmed with fatigue, shoulders tense, lips pressed into a thin line. He leaned down, kissed my forehead, and muttered his usual greeting. "God, I'm tired." His version of hello. I smiled, asked if rehearsal had been rough. He told me the director had a meltdown about someone not understanding subtext. I laughed, said, the way you do when you want to sound like you understand. Then he wandered down the hall to change. I expected the usual soundtrack, the squeak of hangers, a sigh about how we need to do laundry, the thump of shoes landing on the floor. Instead, silence. Not the peaceful kind, but the sort that stretches until it feels unnatural. Then his voice, sharper than usual, carried my name down the hall. Lisa. Something in his tone froze me. It wasn't panic or anger, but it had that edge, like someone holding their breath before delivering a verdict. I rolled my eyes, scraped melted cheese off my fork, muttered something about men being helpless without visual confirmation, and padded down the hall. He stood in front of the open closet, motionless. His hand hovered mid-air, pointing toward the shelf. His face was pale eyes fixed as though the shelf itself had come alive. "What is it?" I asked, annoyed. He didn't look at me, just nodded at the shelf. At first, I saw nothing unusual. A folded beach towel, one of his old hoodies, an unmatched sock I kept meaning to throw away. Then tucked between the towel and the t-shirt I saw it. A bra. Pale pink, trimmed with lace. Not the kind of thing you wear for comfort. Not mine. My stomach dropped. I reached out slowly as if the fabric might burn. It was warm like it had been worn recently. "That's not mine," I whispered. "Yeah," Ma replied quietly. His voice held no relief, only confirmation. The silence that followed roared in my ears. My mind tried to spin explanations. Maybe it belonged to a previous tenant. Maybe it had been lodged deep in the back of the closet and worked its way forward like some relic. But this wasn't dusty. This wasn't forgotten. This was fresh. Dinner was brittle that night. I stabbed my pasta. He pushed food around on his plate. Halfway through, he asked, "Are you experimenting?" The question hit harder than a shout. "You think I'm cheating?" I demanded. He didn't answer, and for the first time, I realized something worse than betrayal was creeping in. Doubt. Not just his. Mine. About the house we lived in, the life we had built, the shadows under the roof where my parents also stayed upstairs. The air suddenly tasted wrong, like someone had replaced my life with a slightly warped version and dared me to notice. That night, I didn't sleep. And by the time dawn pushed through the blinds, I had the gnawing certainty this was only the beginning. The next morning, I moved through the kitchen like a ghost, half awake, half drunk, on unease. My parents were already upstairs, their footsteps muffled above me, their presence like fog that never burned away. I tried to focus on something normal: laundry. Maybe if I folded socks and shirts, the quiet storm inside me would settle. I lugged the basket onto the counter, shaking out shirts one by one. It should have been a mindless chore. But then my fingers brushed something soft, strange. Wedged beneath a hoodie was a slipper powder blue fuzzy with a tiny decorative bow. Small, worn, definitely not mine. My heart skipped. It was the wrong size, the wrong style. I stared at it the way you stare at a piece of roadkill, knowing it has no business in your hands. Someone had worn it recently. The sole was pressed down the inside, matted. It belonged to someone who curled up on couches, who lived a life here. But not me. The front door clicked. Footsteps. Ma. Panic surged stupidly through me, the instinct of a teenager hiding contraband. Instead of holding it out to him and saying, "Look, another bizarre clue," I shoved it behind my back. He walked in. His eyes narrowed. "What are you hiding?" I froze. He stepped closer. I pulled the slipper out slowly, like surrendering a weapon. He stared, silent. Then his face closed down, resigned. "Yeah," he murmured. I knew it. Those words hurt more than shouting would have. He didn't even argue. He just left the room. I stood there, gripping the slipper, shaking. My mind spun in circles. If I wasn't cheating, and he wasn't either, then what was happening? Was someone planting things in our house? Who would even do that? I carried the slipper upstairs to the dining table, where my mom sat scrolling on her phone with reading glasses perched on her nose. She looked up when I placed it in front of her. "Yours?" I asked. She gave it a glance, then shook her head. "No. It was in our laundry basket," I said. "Yesterday, Ma found a bra in the closet. Also not mine." Her eyebrows rose. She leaned back in her chair. "And you're sure it's not something old you forgot you had?" "It's the wrong size," I said flatly. She tapped her fingers together. "Has he been acting strange lately?" "Not strange, maybe, but distant, preoccupied." I frowned. "You think he's cheating?" She hesitated, then nodded slightly. I didn't want to say anything, but I did see something. The words sliced through me. "What?" "A few weeks ago. I came home early. I'd forgotten my charger. You weren't here. And I saw him in the living room with a woman. She was young, dark hair, maybe light brown. And you didn't tell me." I didn't know how. I thought maybe it was innocent. But now with this, she gestured at the slipper. "With the bra in your closet." I stared at her, trying to breathe. She shook her head like she was pitying me. "There is someone else's pink bra in your closet, Lisa, and you don't even suspect your husband of cheating. You are so naive." Her words rang inside me like a bell. Pink. I had never told her the color. I walked away before my legs gave out. Outside, the air was cold and damp, but it cleared my head. I replayed every second of the conversation, every word she'd used. That single slip pink kept circling back sharper each time. I hadn't mentioned the color, not once, which meant she already knew, which meant she had seen it before Ma even showed me, which meant she had planted it. The realization landed with a snap in my chest, quiet but brutal. My own mother had staged the betrayal. The bra, the slipper, the whispers, all of it. And if she planted them, then she was playing a much bigger game. I stormed back to the house, fury boiling hot enough to blur my vision. My shoes hit the floor too hard each step, announcing war. But when I swung open the door, it wasn't my mother waiting in the living room. It was Ma. He sat on the couch, elbows on his knees, staring at the floor. His face looked carved from stone, but his eyes, red-rimmed, exhausted, lifted when I entered. "Your mom told me everything," he said. My pulse spiked. "Everything. She said she saw you." His voice cracked with another woman. "Here, in the house." For a second, I thought I'd misheard him. Then laughter ripped out of me, high-pitched and jagged. "Seriously? She told you I was cheating." He flinched. "She said she didn't want to, but she thought I deserved to know." "And you believed her?" He looked away. "She was convincing. And then the bra, the slipper." I shook my head violently. "No. Stop. She knew the bra was pink, Ma. I never told her the color." "How would she know that unless she put it there?" His brow furrowed the first crack in his certainty. Before I could press further, the front door opened. My mother's laugh floated inside, casual, careless. I hissed at him, "Hide." "What?" please." He ducked into the hallway, and I stepped into the kitchen just as she entered. She set her purse on the counter, smiled like nothing was wrong. "Lisa, you home?" I cleared my throat. "Yeah." "Hey, about that woman you said you saw me with. Can you describe her again?" She blinked, then tilted her head, feigning thought. "Oh, sure. She was young, maybe 20s, short dark hair. I think she had a tote bag. You two looked cozy." I nodded slowly. "Interesting." Ma stepped into the room. Her smile collapsed. "So he said evenly, you told her I was cheating and you told me she was." My mother froze. Her mouth opened-closed. She placed her purse on the table with deliberate calm, as if we were about to discuss groceries. Then she walked upstairs without a word. The silence she left behind was heavier than anything she could have said. Ma turned to me, voice breaking. "I'm sorry. I didn't want to believe her. I just thought maybe I wasn't enough for you." I grabbed his hand. "Don't. You are." We sat together in that heavy, quiet, fingers locked, both realizing the same thing. This wasn't just lies. It was sabotage, and it wasn't over. The next morning, I climbed the stairs. My father sat at the table scrolling on his phone. He looked up when I stopped in the doorway. "Did you know what Mom did?" I asked. His eyes flickered with guilt. "It wasn't meant to hurt you." "Just meant to destabilize my marriage, totally harmless." He sighed, as if I were the unreasonable one. "We just didn't think you and Mika were a good match. You're practical. He's dramatic. He's an actor. And Sienna's always had feelings for him." The words hit like a slap. "She never really moved on," he continued. "They've got chemistry. You've seen them on stage." I clenched my fists. "So you planted a bra?" "And a slipper." He didn't deny it. He just nodded. "To test your relationship? To show you the cracks?" Maybe it was her second chance. I stared at him, unable to decide if my heart was racing or trying to flee my body. They hadn't just lied. They had tried to rewrite my life as if I were an extra in Sienna's play. I walked downstairs without another word, printed an eviction notice, 30 days. When I slapped it on the fridge, my mother finally spoke. "We're your parents." "And I was your daughter," I said, "but you chose her." For once, she had no answer. The days after I posted the eviction notice felt like living inside a countdown clock. Every time I passed the fridge, the paper glared back at me, stapled neat and cold beneath a magnet shaped like a smiling tomato. 30 days. The house swelled with tension so thick it was hard to breathe. Boxes began to appear upstairs, half-heartedly filled. My parents avoided me, but their silence said more than words. Still, one question burned in my chest. Did Sienna know? My sister had always been the golden one, the daughter they funded, the actress they cheered for, while I scraped through college with loans and 2 jobs. If she had stood behind this scheme, then every late-night resentment I had buried would be vindicated. I drove to her apartment without warning. She opened the door in sweatpants and a messy bun, surprise flashing in her eyes. "Lisa, is everything okay?" "No," I said flatly. "Can I come in?" She stepped aside. I sat on her couch, looked her straight in the eye, and told her everything. The bra, the slipper, the staged betrayal, the lies whispered into my husband's ear. By the time I finished, my throat ached. Sienna's mouth hung open. "They did what?" "You didn't know," I pressed. "God, no! Are you serious?" Her hands flew to her face. I searched her for cracks, any sign she was performing. But all I saw was horror. "I thought they were acting weird," she admitted, "but not sabotage weird." She shook her head. Then her voice softened. "Lisa, I'm actually seeing someone." The confession startled me. "Who?" "Marcus. He's amazing, smart kind, and yeah, ridiculously hot. But Mom and Dad, they're not thrilled." Why, I asked, though the answer was already rising in my gut. She bit her lip. "Because he's black." Anger flared through me. They said that. Not outright, she said bitterly. Just passive comments, asking if we're really compatible, if I've thought long term. And lately, they keep bringing up Ma. Like, remember that scene where you kissed on stage, like it meant something. The realization landed heavy. It wasn't just about me. They couldn't accept Marcus, so they tried to resurrect their fantasy of Sienna with Ma. My marriage wasn't collateral damage. It was the plan. You didn't do this, I told her quietly, but they did it for you. Sienna's eyes filled. She grabbed my hand. I'm sorry. I squeezed back. Me too. For the first time in years, the distance between us shrank. We weren't rivals anymore. We were daughters, both burned by the same fire. That night back home, Ma wrapped his arms around my waist, his chin resting on my shoulder. I didn't want to believe her, he whispered. I just thought maybe I wasn't enough. I turned in his arms. You are. Always. We didn't talk more. We didn't need to. For once, silence wasn't an accusation. It was healing. When 30 days ended, my parents left. No tearful goodbye, no apology. Just cardboard boxes, the thud of suitcases down the stairs, and the sharp scent of emptiness in the rooms they had haunted for 2 years. When the door shut behind them, the house exhaled. The quiet was so profound, it felt holy. For the first time in months, I didn't feel watched. I didn't feel judged. The walls belonged to us again. But quiet after war isn't peace. It's recovery. And in that recovery, I realized grief can live beside relief. I mourned the parents I thought I had, the ones who might have chosen love over control. But those parents had never really existed. That night, I lay in bed beside Ma. His arm draped over me, heavy grounding. I stared at the ceiling and whispered into the dark. It's not over, because I knew them. And people who lie that smoothly rarely stop at one act. The weeks after they left were strangely heavy. The air in the house was quiet, free of their footsteps and subtle corrections. Yet my chest carried the weight of years. I didn't miss their presence. I missed the parents I once imagined they could be. It was a grief not for people, but for a dream that had never existed. At first, they tried subtle routes back into my life. My mother sent me a link to an article titled, "Family is Forever," with no message attached. My father left a voicemail that began with, "I'm not good with words," which was his way of asking me to fill the silence with forgiveness. Then came a text that read simply, "We miss you." None of it included the word sorry. None of it carried accountability. I blocked them, unblocked them long enough to write a letter, then blocked them again. My letter was clear. If they wanted contact, it would begin with truth, acknowledging what they had done, apologizing specifically, and agreeing to speak only with a therapist present. Their response came in the mail, a thick printed essay about how they had only wanted what was best. They framed their sabotage as instinct, their lies as protection. The word apology never appeared. I folded it neatly, slid it into a drawer with expired coupons, and let it rot there. Paper with no power. Meanwhile, life began to bloom again. The upstairs was no longer an occupied territory. We turned it into a guest room. Friends came over for dinner without me worrying about the judgmental shadow of my parents drifting by. Ma rehearsed lines at the kitchen table, and I laughed again at the terrible accents, the exaggerated gestures. For the first time in months, my laughter didn't sound foreign. Sienna and Marcus grew closer. They moved in together, sent me photos of their apartment cluttered with boxes labeled "Kitchen Maybe" and a couch half-assembled in the middle of the floor. She invited us to help. Ma and I brought a drill, failed spectacularly, and ordered pizza instead. The four of us ate cross-legged on the carpet, laughing over warm soda, because the glasses were still buried. For the first time in years, I felt like I had a sister, not a rival. Still, grief lingered. It came when I saw a family at the park holding hands, or when I walked past the grocery aisle where my mother used to comment about prices like they were personal insults. One day, I spotted her near the tomatoes. She smiled, said I looked thin. I answered politely, "You look well." Then she leaned closer, whispered, "We miss you." I looked at her hand gripping my sleeve and said, "Then you know what to do." She didn't answer. She never has. Months passed. On our anniversary, Ma and I visited the tiny black box theater where we first met. The chairs were as uncomfortable as ever, the stage still a scuffed rectangle of wood. We sat in the back, cheap candy in hand, and watched a new cast stumble through lines we once thought could rearrange the weather. Afterward, I stood outside in the alley, staring up at the night sky. I texted Sienna, "I'm proud of you." She replied with a photo of a pothos plant she'd named Lisa. I laughed so hard Ma startled. Walking home under streetlights, I realized something family isn't a fixed map. It's a garden. What grows is what you choose to water. I had spent years watering weeds, hoping they would bloom into flowers. But weeds only choke. Now I tended to what mattered: my marriage, my sister, the people who chose me back. Some nights the pink bra still flashed in my mind. Not as evidence of betrayal, but as a reminder, people who will plant lies in your home are people you cannot keep in your heart. So I chose distance. I chose truth. I chose peace. And when grief whispered that I had gone too far, I whispered back that boundaries are not walls, they are doors with locks, and I hold the key. If you are where I was confused, gaslit, apologizing for saying ouch while someone insists their touch is love, hear me now. You are allowed to curate the cast of your life. You are allowed to leave the theater when the play harms you. You are allowed to choose the people who choose you back. That Tuesday with pasta in the microwave and a pink bra waiting in the closet was the day my life split in two. It looked ordinary, but it carried the miracle of freedom. If this story resonated with you, please like, share, and subscribe for more true stories, and leave a comment with the boundary or brave decision that changed your life. You might give someone else the courage they need.